I sort of work such that my artwork is a bit coextensive with my own life. So strangely enough, thinking back, I realised that I was a room organiser as a child, so I had this control thing over how my room looked, and that I often moved things around in that room. And so I think I was sort of doing installation from a very early age, in quite a bad way probably. But I do collect. While I'm looking at something else, I'll notice something, and that comes into a collection of things that collect on my back veranda, which is basically where my studio workspace resides at this stage. And then I walk past those things every day, and I will start to shift them around and put them together in unexpected ways. Sometimes quite vigorously, sometimes, just in all kinds of ways. And I think the actions on them then, it builds a vocabulary of possibilities, or a palette. And usually alongside that, I'm doing a bit of reading about the ideas that I want to get across in the work, and that's all informing and feeding back into what gets collected. And then at a certain stage, I might sort of make my mark on these things, so squash them, sew them, cut them, break them in half, drop them, etc. So they might become vigorous in that sense. Sometimes things remain whole and just change by their relations to something close by. So I was really fascinated to read that because the Crystal Palace was such a temporary, it was located in Hyde Park temporarily and then moved, and the building was meant to be a provisional building in that way, and that therefore having it in a park meant they had to keep it warm for people to feel comfortable to walk around. So there had to be a means to do that, and it just felt perfect to me that there was this system of boilers that were running hot water underneath the floorboards in order to keep the place at a very good temperature for people to observe all these colonial artefacts. And when it was summer, there were louvered areas in the Crystal Palace. So the discovery of how to make glass in a sort of larger size enabled them to use louvered windows to create air circulation. And so it's sort of like this this touring climate as well, because I'm sure some of the objects came from places that were of a different climate to the UK. And there's the way that I'm speaking about activating objects is also kind of intimated in that, metaphorically in a way. Prior to being asked to do this work, I started to get interested in metals a little bit, and I was using bronze mesh in other works, and then went to visit scrap metal place just to see if I could find any good things, and one of the things I found was a crumpled water heater. And I also read in the history of this that one of the water heaters exploded at one stage and caused a big flood, so that was kind of interesting to me in that way. But I just didn't know what I was going to do with this water heater, and I had some copper pipe as well. And this is part of the vocabulary of objects that I'd been collecting up, and I left them outside, and of course as soon as the weather turned damp they started to oxidise very rapidly and turn black. And I was so disappointed because there was sort of a sense that the sheen on these things was sort of being lost, and so I started to apply all of these agents to the surface of the copper to reclaim it again. And then at a certain point there was a little bit of removal of the very black bits, but basically I just realised how beautiful it was in its own patina, but also that was just a constant living process.